everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing when you let your nuts hang.
Of course, Trump refuses to call it a war because if it was a war, he'd have to get congressional approval for it. And American presidents don't tend to do that. So you haven't officially had a war since World War II, I think. But notwithstanding that, how big a threat to Trump's overall legacy could this Iran war end up being?
Oh, it could ruin him. I mean, what Smith says is essentially correct. The idea that now he's being compared with Jimmy Carter when he had been ripping Carter to pieces, especially in his first term, I think bodes very, very poorly for him. I do agree that it has divided his base substantially, and it's weakened him as a president, this particular conflict. I don't think that it was ultimately a good idea, and he should move back to domestic issues if he doesn't want this to completely corrupt his entire political ideology and the America First messaging.
You know, Jojo, welcome back to Uncensored. We'll come to your thoughts on me a little later, but your thoughts on Trump. You know, the problem for me looking at all this is that the Democrats have spent 10 years, as Dave said, you know, he's been this huge figure for 10 years. And they've spent 10 years screaming about how awful he is. He's a Nazi, he's Hitler, he's a fascist, he's this, he's that. And yet, after 4 years without Trump, the American people, in bigger numbers, voted for him to come back. And that's not just a positive for Trump and his powers of recovery and amazing comeback and so on. It's a damning repudiation of the other side, your side, right, who just allowed this to happen, in my estimation. And when I look at the political arena now on the left, I'm like, well, where is the person that's actually going to see off Trump or Trumpism? I don't see that person yet. I don't see the new Clinton, Bill Clinton, the new Obama, the new Democrat liberal rock star who's going to come along and go, you know what, forget talking about this guy. I'm the future. Vote for me. This is part of the problem for the left.
I don't disagree with you in terms of what happened in 2024. But I will say that we do have quite a deep bench when it comes to potential candidates for.
All right, she about to talk about who's this deep bench. Like, this is not the Oklahoma City Thunder of 2025-2026 NBA season. Like, it's not like we just have people who can come off the bench and shoot from the stars. It's not, we don't have that in politics. So who do we have?
For 2028. John Ossoff is just one. We have Chris Murphy is another. I mean, the list is really long in terms of how many people I think will be standing up and meeting this moment. I think the Democrats have a real challenge of threading the needle in opposing Trump, standing up to Trump, criticizing Trump, and showing the American people that they actually have something to offer as well. I think that's one of the big mistakes that we made in 2024. But I also think we were not necessarily that adept at messaging how things were going versus how Republicans were saying they were going.
One of the biggest mistakes that Democrats have made over the past 12 years is messaging. The Democrats have been losing with pushing the narratives. They've been losing with the narratives online. They've been losing in trolling. I don't know why trolling is in politics, but trolling is in politics. Remember, I don't know how many times we've had name calling on the Congress floor. How many times we've heard every politician that has a different, moniker where they call them, Sleepy Joe and what was Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, and all the third grade bullying that we've seen in politics that Democrats have not been able to lead. It's like they taking Michelle Obama's when they go low, we go high. But no, to hell with that BS. So when you get someone like Jasmine Crockett in, Jasmine Crockett has the message. She has the fire. The one thing she didn't have was the Mexican voters in Texas, and they voted for another person. It's funny that the Mexicans in Texas, or the Latinos, or whatever you want to call them, in Texas voted Republican. When look what's happening, you know what I mean? I don't get it, but and still, and they say that because of what is it called? Stealing votes, happened by illegals, and they're blaming that on Mexicans, and that's the Republican Party. But yet, still Latinos vote Republican. I don't get it. Latinos vote Republican in Florida, and then they get deported, and it's like, what did you think when you was voting for them? So it's just like the messaging for the Democrats is they're losing the message war to the Republicans, and Republicans are eating it up. And the people who matter the most, which is the Latinos in these communities, Florida, Texas, Arizona, they're winning them over and then deporting them right after. So I don't know. I don't know how this working.
Going. And right now, in terms of Trump's legacy, I think it's incumbent upon us to tether him and Republicans to what is happening right now, to the fact that he alone is responsible, or at least during his 2 terms collectively up until this point, for 28% of the entire current U.S. national debt, $39.6 trillion under Donald Trump's first term and this 2 years. So I think it's important that we talk about that. I think it's important that we talk about what is happening in this war that he says that is not a war, that he sold as a quick, decisive operation that we are 5 months, at least $38 billion into, 18 service members deceased, 400 plus wounded, no exit strategy. Not only haven't we accomplished any of the objectives that he set out, but we've actually given Iran essentially control over the Strait of Hormuz. Gas is $4 a gallon again. I think the Democrats need to manage to thread the needle where they talk about what he has done and is doing to our country, his legacy, that is also economic, that this protracted war, and what we offer the American people. Because
you cannot beat the American people with facts. You cannot beat the American people with facts. You could tell them Trump has done this, Trump has done that. The fact is, Trump gets on TV and lies to our face every day about $19 trillion in investments coming to America. And as I've proven, is not true. We've all read it together. But so you have to win in messaging. Like, it's not about the facts. The facts don't matter. People don't care about facts. They want to know who's going to fight for them, who's going to stand up for them. And when you hear Trump's, I don't know why his speeches are so monumental to MAGA, but there are other Republicans that are like really waking up to it, and they're pushing back. And of course, all of the big names who are pushing back towards Donald Trump, he doesn't like them. He doesn't like Candace Owens. He don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she was one of his biggest advocates at one time until he refused to release the Epstein files. But she was great prior to that, right? She was great. She was awesome. And it's many more people that Trump has turned his back on because they disagree with him or they don't like his stance on a certain subject. And guess what? His message to them is to give them a name, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then MAGA will turn against them. Now you have all of MAGA against Marjorie Taylor Greene, where at one time she was, championed by all the MAGAs. The same thing with Kevin Stitt in Oklahoma. All Trump did. Trump never met Governor Kevin Stitt. Like, never met him. I mean, they probably been in the same room, but he don't like them. So when they got into it online because of Trump, Kevin Stitt didn't really like something that Trump said. Then now all of a sudden you want to take back your candidacy, and guess what? Whenever the governor race comes back up, Donald Trump is not going to endorse Kevin Stitt. He's going to endorse a new person. It's happening. Like, I don't understand why y'all don't see what's going on. It's the messaging. It has nothing to do with who's gonna stand up to Trump. And then once you stand up to Trump, if in a Republican state, he's gonna get rid of you, and he's gonna just find him another bootlicker. That's all it is. And whoever follows suit is gonna win over the whole Trump base.
That's what's missing.
Okay, I mean, Dave Smith, I felt from day one of this war it was a massive miscalculation, and that and at best a terrible misjudgment based on, I think, the persuasive powers of Benjamin Netanyahu and the head of Mossad to buy into a sequence of events which just hasn't materialized. And that if Trump had his time again, as we can see from the current distancing with Netanyahu, that he probably wouldn't have gone into it. It's interesting. I mean, Jojo said about the war, they've lost everything militarily and they were able to kill our heroes because this sociopath, Trump, doesn't have a goddamn care in the world about how many of our troops die in his illegal for personal profit bullshit war. Now, I would say that is a mischaracterization. Correct me if you think I'm wrong. Whenever I've talked to Trump, publicly or privately, he's always wanted to avoid death in combat. And he has been very perturbed by the enormous number of deaths, for example, in the Ukraine war, right? And he talks about it a lot privately, right? How many young men are getting killed on a daily basis on the front line there. I don't think he doesn't care about the lives of American forces. I think he genuinely has always viewed Iran as a massive threat. And he got traduced by Netanyahu into believing this was the right moment and the sequence of events the Israelis put forward would happen. In other words, it was a terrible mistake. He shouldn't have done it. An appalling error of judgment to trust what he was being told and sold. But ultimately, I don't think it was the actions of someone who doesn't care about the lives of American servicemen. I think where he's got himself is that, unfortunately, he doesn't know how to get out of this now. And so more and more servicemen are getting pulled in and getting killed. And I don't know if he knows an exit route for this.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're asking to speculate what's in his heart or how much he cares about every one of these 19-year-olds who he's gotten killed. I don't know. It is true that he certainly tried to resist conflicts, including this conflict in his first term. And the exact same factions were trying to pull him into this war and trying to pressure him into it in his first term.
And by factions, does he mean like Israel? I don't know why we got into this war. Like, yes, I understand it was to stop them from enriching more uranium and creating ballistic missiles, but North Korea been on that. So is North Korea not a threat? I assume North Korea was a bigger threat to America than Iran, but for some reason, I guess it's because of terrorism. North Korea is not really a terrorist state. They're really focused on terrorizing their own people versus the world. So if that's the case, freedom for who? Like, are we trying to free Iran like we did Afghanistan? Because y'all remember what happened to that after we freed them. I mean, didn't last very long, but it was a great shot. You know what I'm saying? But that war lasted about approximately like 20 years between Iraq and Afghanistan. That was a very, very long war and deadly and very costly. It wasn't until recent times that we actually caught up from that war. And that is also reason why we have such a low enlistment rate in the military at this moment, because of such wars like the Iraq and Afghanistan war. So,
And he resisted. If you remember, after the Iranians shot down the drone, after the Soleimani strike, there were lots of pressures to get into it, and he resisted those. And he resisted even in the 12-day war. Took the first off ramp that he got. Now, I understand what you're saying, Pierce, here, and me and you read the same news, but there is like this big question mark in the narrative here, which is that how exactly was Donald Trump persuaded when obviously he should have known, as everyone in this town would know, that Netanyahu is just trying to get you into this thing because what he wants is a regime change or a regime collapse, and that he's going to say whatever he can to try to lure you into this thing. And then, of course, Pierce, if we're to trust the New York Times reporting, that nobody in Trump's own government went along with this and backed it up. And nobody in his intelligence, of course, nobody was saying it's a slam dunk that you can get a regime change through the air with no ground forces. I'm not sure that's ever been done.
I told y'all, I said, next thing they're going to do is put people on the ground. I think I said this yesterday. I believe, was we talking politics yesterday? Yeah. Or maybe it was a couple days ago. I said, the next thing we got to do, once we, defeat the aerial stuff and we take over a city, we got to take over a city. We got to break ground. We got to get some turncoats in there. Some people who ready to turn on Iran because they're sick of the regime themselves. Once we get that and get more intelligence, now we have to put people on the ground and we have to go find whoever is the current leader and take them out. And that's exactly what's about to happen. And we could see in Iraq, how long did it take for them to find Saddam? It took them a while. Eventually they found him, but then there were still people that were still fighting back. In Afghanistan, you know how long it took us to find whatever his name was, Bin Laden, Then we didn't even find him in Afghanistan. He was in Pakistan. You know what I'm saying? And we don't even know for sure if we seen a picture. They said they got his DNA and they dropped him in the middle of the ocean. Like, really? In the middle of the ocean? Like, I don't know. I'm not, it's hard to believe, but we did lose a plane. I remember watching Twitter that night, and people were posting on Twitter and they were like, yeah, some plane just landed in this compound over here. The compound is a large compound. It's been over there for years. Nobody's really paid attention. Nobody goes in, nobody goes out. And some military helicopters just land. Now you hear a bunch of shooting, and they're broadcasting it. I think it was on Twitter. Yeah, it was broadcasting it live on Twitter, and I was like, damn. And it was in the middle of the night, or the middle early. Was it middle of the night? It was early in the morning or something. It was a weird time. It was late at night. It was late Oklahoma time, but it was like middle of the night over there. So yeah, it was, it was a crazy scene. Then turn around, they found Bin Laden, and it's like, then this picture comes on the screen of Bin Laden's face dead, and it's like where they taking it above his head using a flash camera, and that's what we have. That's the picture that we have of Bin Laden dead. And people are like, is he really dead? But, that war, that was a deadly war. You had to put people on the ground to get all that intel and find out where these people are. And that was deadly. It was dangerous. Y'all seen, what was it, 12? It was, what's that movie called? 12 Hours of Darkness or something like that? No, it was called Dark. Something about the dark. But yeah, it was a good movie.
In military history. And so, yeah, it's kind of a crazy idea that he got tricked into this by the Israelis. I suppose that's possible after Venezuela. The bottom line here, Pierce, is this. He launched the war. Those people are dead as a result of it. This is what leadership comes down to, right? Okay.
It was Zero Dark 30. That's what it was called.
Okay, now here's the interesting thing about this latest round. We're at the darkest point in this war so far, Pierce. He's back to threatening, and now he's even taken moves toward bridge and power plant day. He's threatening to do this the next time. The Iranians are not backing down. But Pierce, what's really different about this go-around of the war? Last week, in his walk down, he walked away from all of the original war aims, Pierce. Every last reason that we supposedly were fighting this war. He backed off of the first point in the memorandum of understanding is that there'll be a ceasefire in Hezbollah. So we're not saying they can't fund their terrorist proxies. He walked away from ballistic missiles. He walked away from the nuclear dust. He walked away from zero enrichment. He walked away from the whole thing. We're just fighting over the Strait and Lebanon now, two issues that didn't exist before the war. I mean, I'm sorry, 5 months into it, if that's not a disaster, I don't know what is.
I know, and I didn't see the original plan that was for. They came up with a solution, and they were gonna, I guess, stop enriching uranium and stuff like this. But somehow somebody kept firing. I don't know if it was them fired on us or them firing on Lebanon, or was it us firing on them? But talks went up and down and up and down and up and down, and it was just like we shouldn't have never got into this. It could have been a peaceful. I don't know. It could have been a peaceful talk. If Trump is about making deals, I get it. Make the deals. How many wars did he stop before then? Like 30. He stopped like 30 wars prior to this war beginning. All peaceful. So I don't understand why this one all of a sudden became not so peaceful, man. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section.